So my name is Adebola Adeniro, and I lead growth at a company called Money. And we recently got funded by YC, just like Limarc said, so we're super excited about that. I'm also a software development editor here at HackerNoon, so I review like a lot of the software engineering stories. And I also worked as a software engineer as well in a previous life last year. But now I no longer code like full time because like I lead growth now. But every now and then, like I always have to write some SQL queries or build like small apps for the company. So yeah, so I still get to code like every now and then, but it's not like my day-to-day job anymore. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about, this is some career advice for technical writers, but I'm going to sort of start with my own background and how I got into writing. So I think about 3 years ago, I joined the boot camp because I decided that I wanted to start a career in engineering as a software engineer. And then I started like at a boot camp and I started like, picking up skills in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and like a lot of like back-end languages like Ruby on Rails and front-end languages as well, like React. And at the time, because the thing about being a software developer is that you would always have to read a lot of articles, right? And watch a lot of videos, because many times you never really know what you need to do next. And you always have to go and read documentation, read articles, read Stack Overflow, read things like that. And sometimes some articles made things more complex than they should be. And sometimes the things that I read basically could not really help me. Maybe they gave me some pointers, but it could not help me all the way. And so every time I solved those problems on my own, I would write an article about it. And that was how I got started writing articles and writing technical articles as well. Oops, okay. Yeah. And so I started publishing on my own personal blog. It was a small WordPress blog. And then I found HackerNoon. I was like, oh, like, it's pretty tough to get published on HackerNoon as well for the first time. And it's incredible that like 2 years ago, I was published on HackerNoon. And like in October of last year, I started working on HackerNoon, and it was like a big move for me. I remember the first time I got published on HackerNoon, I was super excited. And something that we used to always celebrate at the bootcamp, because when you submit your story, somebody has to read it and think that it's good enough to be approved. So if you get published on HackerNoon, it's a big deal because like one of our editors has read it and thought that it's good enough for everyone else to read. Okay. Right, so I'm just going to talk about like a few lessons that I learned along the way in my own writing journey. And also I was able to make some money as well writing technical content. So the first thing is, what should you write about? And I won't say something cliche and say write about what you love first, but I'm going to start with write about what is popular. And I think I probably learned this, I'll say like the hard way. So I was publishing like random stuff about the things that I enjoyed. And yes, I got some good traction on those things, on those articles, and like people loved what I wrote and things like that. But when I wrote about NFTs, my DMs blew up. So there were people messaging me and asking me to come work for their blockchain company. And I was like, I'm not a blockchain engineer. I'm a software engineer, but I'm not a blockchain engineer. And then there were also like blogs that wanted me to write for them. And then there were people who wanted me to like help them mint NFTs and things like that. And so that was like a massive lesson for me to see that, oh, like when there's a technology that a lot of people are interested in, you can get a lot of traction by writing about those technologies. And so now I can talk about writing about the things that you love. So the internet is a massive place, right? And there's so much content on the internet, right? And all you need to succeed is just like a little pie or a little slice of that pie. And then you should write about the things that you're curious about, because writing is hard, right? Writing is like quite hard. But if you write about the things that interest you, the things that you're passionate about, the things that you're curious about, it's fun, right? It's a little easy because when you're doing all your research, you're like, oh, like this is super interesting, and I should throw this into my article as well, right? So when you're thinking about what you should write, think about what is popular, and also think about the things that you love and the things that you're curious about. So yeah, so let me get into this. So how can you write better, right? So how can you make your writing much better? And the first thing I would say about that is take advantage of tools like Grammarly, right? Even as an editor here at HackerNoon, I still make use of Grammarly a lot to correct grammar, to correct sort of punctuation and things like that. And even though, so for some people, English might be their first language, but you would notice that you've seen it Grammarly to help you make certain corrections, right? So definitely take advantage of tools like Grammarly to help you write better. And then also, while to write better as well, you also need to read a lot of content, and you need to consume a lot of content as well. So I always say, hey, listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos, watch random YouTube videos. Sometimes I watch videos of people studying on YouTube and just like listen to them play music and watch them study, right? So watch like super random things, and you'll be inspired. Like you'll be shocked how those things inspire you to sort of write better stories and things like that. Another thing I would like to say is keep it simple. Like I said, in my early days as a software engineer and trying to read other people's articles, sometimes they got too complex, and I would always look for the simplest one for me to understand. And I took some screenshots here from one of my blog posts, and you can see like some of the comments that I got. I've been searching for this nice article, good article, short, simple, and useful. For me, I prefer to write like an article that takes you 5 minutes to read than an article that takes you 30 minutes to read, right? And again, it also depends on what you're writing about. But I feel like shorter articles with all of the information packed in there is much stronger, and people would want to, because when people see, oh, this is only going to take me 5 minutes to read, they're more excited to read those articles and like, oh, let me give this a shot and see what this person has to say in this article. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our writing process. By the way, I hope you guys like some of my pictures as well in my slides. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about my writing process and sort of how I start when I want to write. Like I said, I made money previously from writing articles because like there are lots of technical blogs out there that will reach out to you and say, hey, come publish for us, and we'll probably pay you like $300 to write for us, right? But obviously the article has to be original. And this is my writing process all the time. So the first thing is that I choose a topic I'm curious about, right? So for example, I'm on the HackerNoon page and I'm seeing like different posts about NFTs, and I'm like, oh, like what is this NFT thing, right? Maybe I scan through some articles on HackerNoon, but I'm still confused because sometimes HackerNoon people are super smart and maybe like way smarter than I am. And then I'm thinking like, how do I connect the dots in my mind, right? So the next thing I do is I go to YouTube. YouTube is such a great place. I go to YouTube and I search for what is NFT, like a very basic search. What is NFT? And then I watch like a couple of videos, try to get like a background on what NFTs are. This is basically my process of writing the NFT article. So I watch a couple of videos, I learn about what NFTs are, and I'm like, okay, this is super interesting. And then I go back to reading articles again. And because I'm able to connect like the simple things, which is what is an NFT, how do NFTs work? And I can now connect that to reading more complex articles, right? So once I've done that and I've sort of, scanned and skimmed everywhere, I'm able to develop my topic more. So I'm able to think about, okay, what do I really want to write about, right? And I really like to write towards beginner engineers because I know how much I struggled when I was starting out my career as a software engineer. So I started to think about what if I was going to learn about NFTs today as an engineer, where would I start from? Yeah. And so for me, that's where I started to develop my topic from. And then I think about what the topic should be, what the title should look like, what would be catchy, but at the same time, what would have the most impact on people, right? And I think my article was called How to Mint an NFT in JavaScript, right? Again, JavaScript is like a massive thing already in the tech community because everybody wants to write and build on JavaScript. And then NFTs are also huge. So you're getting traffic from all of the people searching for NFTs, and you're also getting traffic from all of the people searching for JavaScript. So perfect title, right? How to mint NFTs with JavaScript. And so I developed my topic. I've already done like my research, I've read, but you would notice that, at least for me as an engineer, as you start to write the article, you would still get stuck, right? You still get stuck and you still have to go back to do some more reading and some more research and to watch some more videos. And for engineers, it's a little weird because you would always have to go back to read the documentation of whatever APIs you're using. So you'd always have to go back, read the documentation, write the code. It probably would fail, it wouldn't work, you're frustrated. You go get a cup of coffee, you come back and you repeat the same process again until it works. So for example, I wrote an article about building a Slack bot and that was published, right? And I got paid for that. And everything was going good. Like people were leaving like nice comments and things. But then I think Slack updated something on their end, right? So everyone that was trying to use my code, it would break because there's been some kind of change in the background that I didn't know about because I wrote the article like months back. And so the publication is reaching out to me and saying, hey, you need to update the article because like people can no longer use your code. And I'm swamped because I have lots of things I'm doing. I don't have enough time to update the article. But yeah, like engineering is interesting because things get updated all the time. So while you're developing a topic, you still have to do like a lot of research and think to yourself that if something changes in the future, would this affect the way my article is perceived or the way my article is read? Yeah, so it's super interesting when it comes to technology. And then the last thing is choosing where to publish or how you publish, right? So you need to publish smart. I always say publish on the biggest publications, right? Find the biggest blogs that you can find and publish there, because what usually happens is that the smaller blogs pick up your content and then they republish it. Sometimes you search for yourself and you're like, I never published on this blog. How did my stuff get here, right? So always publish on the biggest, in the biggest publications. HackerNoon is huge. A lot of people read HackerNoon, and if your article gets published on HackerNoon, you're actually quite respected, right? So definitely publish on HackerNoon. And another thing I would say is make sure to repost your content across your socials, especially LinkedIn, right? I know like the amount of people that reach out to me on LinkedIn, asking me to come work for them, asking me to write for them, and asking me, sometimes just basically asking me, for example, I worked at a company called Crossover, right? And I wrote about my experience there. I mean, I left after like a month and a half because it was too stressful. I was like, this is crazy. I don't want to work in a place like this. And people would always reach out to me on LinkedIn and connect with me on LinkedIn and say, hey, like, you know, I'm going to interview at this company. Can you help me out? Or would you advise me to work at this company and things like that? So you start to build like all of that network and all of those relationships as well across the internet. So definitely publish on your socials, publish on places like LinkedIn because your stories can be widely shared. Definitely publish on Facebook as well. On Twitter is also huge as well. I don't use Twitter a lot, but like LinkedIn is my go-to place. And yeah, like I said, yeah, one of my first paid gigs came from a recruiter finding one of my earliest stories, right? And then I got approached by a company called Educative to write a course on AWS. I started writing the course, but then I had too many things to do, so I just had to like abandon that. But like I said, it's important for you to publish on socials, publish on sites where it's easy to share your stories, and so that like, you know, people can find you and people can give you paid gigs as well. And like I also said here, make sure to repost in other publications with high readerships. Like HackerNoon is great, but also like find like other technical publications that would, you know, publish your stuff and get you like get you in front of the kind of readers that you need to be in front of. Yeah, so it's a wrap. If you want to, you can follow me everywhere. If you like some of the NFT pictures that I put in the slides, you can follow me on my socials.
So just to recap, I'm going to be talking about how to monetize your blog and my experiences doing this and a bunch of mistakes I made along the way. So let's get started. Yeah, dollar bills, y'all, for sure. First of all, why listen to me? Like, where is this information coming from? Firstly, as VP of editorial at HackerNoon, I've seen almost every type of content monetization possible. We've thought of every possible way to monetize HackerNoon, which ones would be best. So I have the industry experience from that end. But I think the more important thing is I know what it's like to be the little guy. And I want to use myself as proof that the little guy can win in this industry. You don't need to get millions of views to make money off your writing. And the proof is in the pudding here. My website, jpbound.com. It's not a huge site whatsoever. Like I'm quite proud of this number of getting 44,000 views a month from something I built myself, but relatively that's not a big number at all. One article on HackerNoon can beat that in a month if it's a good article. But despite having lower traffic than the big sites, I was able to get an average monthly revenue in 2021 of $635. And I just want to show you that you can do this too. And this slideshow will be about the ways you can do that. So first, some terminology, the common types of blog monetization. These are the 5 main types I know of. There probably are more, but these are the ones we see. So ads, everybody knows what those are. There aren't really anything to explain there. 2, sponsored posts and product endorsements. 3, backlink placement. 4 is affiliate commissions, and 5 is direct sales. And let's talk about each of these in more detail. So ads, as everyone knows, arguably the most common and oldest form of blog monetization. Specifically, here are the most common types you'll see: banner ads, in-text ads, video ads, pop-up, which are similar to interstitial ads, and pop-under ads. So banner ads, as I said, you don't really need an introduction here. Banners can come in various sizes and orientations. You can see them at the top of posts, at the bottom of posts, and even at the sidebars of posts, depending on the design of the blog. And you can even see them placed within the articles themselves. People might have a paragraph about a VPN, and they'll put in a banner right in the middle of that paragraph to buy a VPN. And lastly, there's also overlay ads. You'll see this at the bottom here. An overlay ad is one that remains on the page regardless of where you scroll. So if I were to scroll down here, the very top ad would disappear, and even these sidebar ones might disappear, but this one would be there regardless of where somebody scrolls to the page. And usually that makes it a more valuable placement. One less common ad type is in-text ads. They're a relatively newer form of ads that are quite intrusive, and in my opinion, they harm the quality of your content, so I wouldn't do it if I were you. But what happens is you'd install this software onto your website, and the software would automatically grab keywords in your articles that match advertisers. So one of the pros is that you don't have to change any of your content. The AI will grab whatever words is relevant to the sponsors that are available at that time. And if somebody were to hover over those words in your article, this ad might pop up. So in my opinion, it's kind of a way of selling the words in your article, which I don't think is a great thing to do, but it is one that exists. Video ads. So these are normally overlaid, which means anywhere I scroll, this video is still going to be in the bottom right of the article. And these are quickly becoming the ads that pay the most. With the explosion of YouTube, Netflix, all these video streaming sites, most advertisers are switching to videos rather than just static banners. So you'll see lots of smaller sites utilize these because they normally have the highest payouts. And even if you have less than 100,000 monthly views on your article, you can still make quite decent money if you have a good video ad network. And pop-up ads, the ones that have existed since the beginning of the internet. And I just want to talk a little bit how these are different from interstitial ads. So I don't even know if I have to say it. Like, you go to an article and all of a sudden there's just a random new window even that pops up on your screen trying to sell something. That's a pop-up ad, and they effectively hijack the page. Interstitial ads are quite similar, and these are way more common in mobile. So you can see that in the bottom right diagram here. You'll often go on a site on mobile, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's a big ad overlaying the website, and you can't go to the content unless you close out that ad. That's an interstitial ad. It's a little bit different from pop-ups, but it's pretty much the same concept. They're effectively hijacking the content of the entire website. So quite intrusive. And again, I wouldn't recommend those ads for any site. Pop-under ads are also fairly new. They're I say the creativity of the ad industry is endless because for some reason, people keep coming up with new forms of ads that we thought people thought of everything. But you might have seen this. So opposite to a pop-up ad where they'll throw a new tab over your screen, what a pop-under ad does is if you click something on a website, it might open a new tab in your browser that loads that ad. So you stay on the website, you stay on the content, it doesn't harm your reading of the article, but you'll see this new tab pop up that eventually you're going to want to close. That's a pop-under ad. They are slightly less intrusive because, I don't have to look at it. I could just close that tab. Very common on mobile, but still just my personal taste. I'm not a fan of seeing them as a user, so I don't use them on my site, but they are very common. And these ones also pay out quite more than banner ads do. And here I just want to list a few trusted ad networks. And I'll say I highly recommend you do really good research before choosing an ad network. Even ones that may appear legit can be infested with malware or part of a black market. I learned this the hard way. And the basic moral is when the money sounds too good to be true, it normally is. And even if you read one good review of an ad network, you need to read more because in my particular case, I'll say I was scammed by this ad network called Adstera, and I did my due diligence. I read 4 or 5 reviews of this ad network, all saying it was good. But this ad network was just really good at marketing. So they put a bunch of fake good reviews on a bunch of sites to trick people, when in reality, they're a software provider that appears to be a legit ad agency, but they will infect your website with malware and effectively hijack lots of your content. So yeah, just do your due diligence is the basic thing I want to say there. But you don't have to start from scratch. Some verified and trusted ad networks for beginners are Google AdSense. It's owned by Google. So if you trust the Google search engine, you can trust this ad network. If you have a WordPress site, Word Ads is the most easy one to do because you don't have to do anything. You like literally just have to press one button in your settings to set these up. Ezoic is a widely trusted brand now, and it's getting more popular because they don't have a harsh minimum views you need to make a month. I think they'll accept anyone, even if you have under 10,000 views a month on your blog. So lots of beginner websites are starting to use Ezoic. And Infolinks is in quite the same boat. They're not so strict about your minimum view count. So these are 4 ones I'd suggest researching first when you start thinking about ad networks on your website. And a verified scam network, definitely Adstera. I learned the hard way. If you want to know more about that, I can tell you later, but yes, do your due diligence for sure. Next, I want to go over a few ad revenue models. So the most common models you see are CPM, CPC, and CPA. CPM stands for cost per milli, which means cost per 1,000 impressions. This is normally better for high traffic websites. Because for example, using my website, I get, let's say 44,000 impressions in a month, and CPMs are normally low. I use 30 cents as an example, but I've seen it be way lower than that. I've seen it be 8 cents at times. It depends on the ad market at any given month. So let's say 30 cents times 44, I would have made 1320 USD that month on these ads. And in my opinion, 13 USD is not worth harming the user experience of your website and filling it with ads. But I won't speak for everyone. You know, there's no judgment here. If 13 USD a month makes a difference in your life, where you are in the world, definitely go for it. But if that money isn't too significant to you, I don't think there'd be a point in running any CPM ads at all. It'll just make your website look ugly with very little payoff for you. Next is cost per click. As the word suggests, you get paid per click on the ads that you run on the site. They're better for sites with engaged users. So you don't necessarily need tons of views a month, as long as you write content that encourages people to click. So for example, even if a CPC was as low as 10 cents per click, if you got 400 clicks in that month, you get 40 USD, which is, it's not bad at all, especially for a website that you built from yourself from the scratch, right? And the last one is cost per acquisition. Acquisition can mean a few things. It can mean a purchase of a product, a sign up of a trial of a product, or even filling out a form, filling out a survey, whatever the sponsor is advertising at that time. And this is the best or a better place to start for smaller sites, because it really doesn't matter how much traffic you get. It just matters how good the content is and how convincing your content is. So for example, if you had a affiliate partner that was doing $30 CPA and your site generated 10 conversions in a month, that's 300 USD. It's a lot of money. So these are the 3 most common models, and which ones go best with which sites and based on what traffic your sites are getting at that certain time. Thanks for tuning in to this lesson in HackerNoon's blogging fellowship. Please check out the links in the video description for the rest of the video lessons, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Until next time, keep writing, and we look forward to reading your next piece on HackerNoon.